Hey, so in today's lesson, you will learn 5 steps to make better phone calls in English. Now, these 5 steps will help you to speak more naturally, more confidently, and more fluently on the phone, whether you make phone calls for personal or professional reasons. And if you really want to level up your professional communication skills, I want to invite you to join myself and teacher Tiffany for a free online event, the Business English Week, and we've put together this event to help you learn the skills that you need to communicate with confidence at work. It's absolutely free. Just click the link below this video to register, and let's get started. Step 1 is to prepare for your call before you actually make the call or place the call. Now, I just want to remind you that face-to-face communication and telephone communication are not the same, because when you talk to someone face-to-face, you can see their facial expressions, their gestures, their reactions. You can see if they understand you or if they don't understand you. But when you talk to someone on the phone, you have to depend on your listening skills, your speaking skills, and your communication skills to make sure that your message is clear. So preparing ahead of time will make the conversation easier for you, and of course for the other person as well. It will really take the pressure off of you. Now, when I say to prepare, I don't mean to mentally prepare and just think about the call. I want you to actually physically prepare. So what does this mean? What does this look like? You don't have to go crazy and spend hours and hours preparing for a phone call, but a little bit of preparation will go a long way in making your telephone conversations better. So for example, imagine that you have to call the bank because maybe you had a problem with your account, or maybe you were overcharged or charged too much for something and you noticed it on your statement and you have to call the bank and explain the situation. You can prepare by anticipating or predicting or thinking about how this conversation is going to go. So think about questions that you will have to answer, questions that you might ask, and how you can summarize or explain the situation. So I'm going to say that again. Think about questions that you will have to answer, questions you will have to ask, and how you can actually explain the situation. So when you call the bank, chances are that they are going to ask you some security questions, ask for some personal information to confirm or verify or make sure that it's you actually calling. So you can prepare the answers to these security questions ahead of time. You can also think about how you're going to explain the situation to the person on the phone, because you need to tell them that you've been overcharged, you noticed this charge on your statement, and so on and so on. So you can prepare ahead of time. Let me give you one more example. Imagine you are calling a hotel, either to book a room or just to inquire and get some information. You need to think about any special requests or requirements that you have ahead of time. You have to have your personal information, your payment details ready ahead of time. So all of these are simple things that you can prepare before you actually make the call, so that you're not stressed out and fumbling when you are on the phone, all right? So step 1, prepare before you actually place your call. Step 2 is to practice. So after you have thought about possible questions and answers, you've written down some vocabulary that you don't want to forget and your key information, it's time for you to practice your phone call. So the best way to actually practice is, of course, to make the phone call and practice with a friend or a family member if this is possible. If not, you can also record your voice just using your phone, and this way you can listen back and check whether your pronunciation was okay, whether your points were clear, whether you forgot any information, and again, you can ask a friend or a family member to help you. Now, the reason that practicing is so important is because Thinking about speaking and actually speaking are very, very different. Let me explain what I mean by this. So I am an English speaker. I'm a native English speaker. And imagine that I needed to make a phone call in French or in Spanish or in Italian or in any other language that was not my native language. And it was an important call. Imagine that I was calling maybe to follow up about a job. And I just kind of thought about the call in my head, but I didn't actually practice it. And then I made the call and I got really, really nervous and I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot my words. I forgot my points. That is not the time for me to be practicing. So if you have an important phone call to make, it's definitely worth practicing ahead of time if you are not used to speaking on the phone in English, because really remember that thinking about speaking and verbally or physically speaking are very, very different. So once you actually take that step and practice, it's a completely different feeling than just thinking, okay, I have the information, the phone call is going to be good. All right. So take that next step and practice, practice, practice before you make the phone call, especially if it is an important call. Step 3 is to take some notes. Now, I know that writing, listening, speaking, and thinking all at the same time can be very, very challenging. Even in your own native language, it doesn't matter what language it's in, taking notes can be a tricky thing. So when I say take some notes, I mean just write down key pieces of information that you don't want to forget. For example, you could write down someone's name. You can write down phone numbers or prices or figures. You can write down dates or reference numbers. These are things that you can take notes of while you are on the phone. You can also politely ask the person to just hold on 1 second while you write that down. That is totally okay. So don't try to make notes and write down the entire phone conversation. You definitely don't want to do that, because when you're on the phone, you really want to focus on the overall meaning. That's very important. Focus on the overall meaning, the overall or general message, and just write down any key details that you're afraid that you might forget. So I myself do this. When I make calls, I generally write down the name of the person that I'm speaking to so that I don't forget. I also write down reference numbers, dates, anything with numbers I tend to forget, so I always write that down. So make it a habit of making note of any key pieces or important pieces of information when you are on the phone. I also want to tell you that note-taking in general is a fantastic skill to work on. It will really, really help you to improve your English, because if you can write notes during a class, during a video, during a call, during a seminar, anything, it will really, really, really help you. So note-taking in itself is a skill that will help you with not only your phone calls, but with many other situations and improving your English in general. So again, take notes of the most important things that you don't want to forget. Step 4 is to take a break if you get stressed or if you need it. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. First of all, you can politely ask the person to hold on for a moment while you do something, or you can tell the person that you will call them back. Now, both of these are good approaches, suitable approaches, but you do have to do this professionally and politely. So imagine that you're talking to someone on the phone, it's a lot of information, you feel overwhelmed, and you need a second to just collect yourself. You can ask them politely, would you mind holding on for a moment while I grab a pen? Would you mind holding on for a moment while I grab a pen? Okay. This is a nice way of saying, please hold on, and it kind of gives you an excuse to just calm down for a second. You might not necessarily need a pen, but it gives you time to breathe and to regroup and to refocus on the conversation. Another approach or another method that you can use is to call back later. So if the phone call is important and there's a lot of information and you're feeling overwhelmed and you feel kind of lost, you haven't fully understood everything, but the information is important, it's okay to call back later. So again, you need to politely ask the person if you can call them back later. So you could say something like, would you mind if I give you a call back in an hour if you are free? Okay, so set a time with the person. Make sure that it's okay for them. Don't just say, I'll call you back later, I have to go. Don't do that. Don't hang up. Just take a moment and regroup. So either you can ask them to hold on politely, or you can ask to call back. But if you do that, make sure you give a time and check with them when a suitable time is to call back. And step 5 is to clarify and summarize. Now, clarify is a verb that means to make sure that you understood, okay? To make sure that you understood everything correctly. And summarize is just to repeat important things, but in a shorter way or in a shorter version. So I want to remind you that if you ever feel like you are a little bit lost on the phone in a phone conversation, or you feel like you missed some information, it's okay to clarify. It's okay to double check or check again and make sure that you understood. You can simply say, just to clarify, this is what you said. Is that correct? It's very simple and it's okay to do that. So never feel bad about making sure that you understood correctly. Now, when it comes to summarizing again means to repeat the main points of the call just in a shorter version or a shorter form. And this is actually a strategy that I myself and many native English speakers naturally use on the phone. And it also signals the end of the phone call for the other person. So for example, imagine that I ordered a package online. I ordered a product online and maybe the product is delayed, and I have called the company to check what happened to my delivery, what happened to my product. And they have had some problems in their warehouse, and then they had some problems during shipping, and they gave me lots and lots of information, and they explained why the product I ordered is late, why it's delayed, and they told me that I'm gonna get it in the next 2 days, all right? And because it was a lot of information, I just wanna make sure that I understood correctly. So I'm going to summarize everything that they said. And this is what it might sound like. I could say something like this at the end of the call. So just to make sure I've understood correctly, you have now shipped the package to me, and I should receive it in the next 2 days. And if I don't receive it, I can call back and use this reference number, 12345. Is that correct? Okay, so I have basically summarized all of the information they gave me just in a shorter version. And then they can say, yes, that's correct. Or they can say, no, actually, it might take 3 to 4 days. Okay, so maybe if I missed something, it's a chance for them to explain it again. So summarizing the main points of a call at the end is a really great strategy to, first of all, make sure you understood. And if you didn't, make sure that the other person can explain. As well, it signals the end of the call. So it's very natural transition to kind of bring the call to an end. So there you have it, 5 very simple steps to help you make better phone calls in English. Now, you can literally implement these steps right away, today, tomorrow, whenever you make your next phone call. So go ahead, give them a try. Let me know down below how they go and if you have any questions. As well, do not forget to join myself and teacher Tiffany for the Business English Week. Remember to register down below. Thank you so much for watching and for learning with me, and I'll see you soon in the next one.